of the Council Bluffs Community School District. Mr. Wilson, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Grove,
Present.
Mr. LaFurla,
Present.
Mr. Kazire,
Present.
Dr. Ogres.
Present.
Ms. Riley,
Present.
Mr. Hanson,
Present.
Mr. Arthur.
Present. Please join me in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Bruckner will lead us in We Are Proud of Our Schools and any introductions.
Thank you very much. We are very proud of our schools, and tonight before the board meeting, we opened with our first trimester art opening. You can see some really, really great art in this room. We also had musicians from many of our schools here tonight to entertain all of the guests. I said to some woman that stopped and told me how wonderful it was that we get more people at our art openings than they probably do at Jocelyn. So it was great. So very good pictures. I am so pleased to let you meet our first Support Staff Member of the Month. This person is being honored for September. So I would ask Donna Danner to come join me. Donna is our data management specialist, and she is a Green Hills AEA employee. But we think she is so great. You got to come over here so they can take these pictures. We think she is such a part of our team that she is our support staff member of the month. Let me tell you about her. Donna's been working in the Council Bluffs Schools as a Green Hills AEA staff member for 5 years now as a data management specialist. Her primary responsibility is student database called PowerSchool. Here is what her nominators from our schools said about her. Donna is an amazing lady who is always willing to answer the many, many questions we have about PowerSchool. She's very knowledgeable, positive, and timely in her replies. And she has a calming manner when helping to solve a problem or teach something new. Donna does a lot of work behind the scenes to start the new school year and to ensure that it runs smoothly for buildings. She's willing to help with special queries that provide information to better serve our staff and students. Donna's a jewel, and we're lucky to have her work in our schools. We fight AEA for her every year. She's staying. It's a joy and a learning experience working with Donna. We couldn't do our jobs without her. She is supported here tonight by her husband, Jeff, as well as John McGreevy, Dave Fringer, and many others who are lucky enough to get to work with her here at ESC and throughout the school district. So I am very honored to give you, first of all, from ESC, because you're in our building, a Living the Mission award that you are the support staff member of the month for our area. And then you are support staff member of the month for the entire school district. And this plaque is from the Council Bluffs School Community and our school district. And we have a gift certificate that we will give that to you. You're welcome so much. It's a hard act to follow, but we're going to try to follow it. We have 2 videos that we would like to show you, and the first one is based on some work by Ajin Mange, who is one of our students who represented us in Denver at the All-America City Awards. And before we show it, I want Ajin to just tell us a little bit about what this is. She is joined here by her mother and her coach there, Deb Suiso, another AEA employee who is, as you know, working with us in safety. So, Ajin.
So this is just a video about school safety. Miss Deborah came to me and the journalism staff, and she said, there's a video contest, and there's some money involved, and I know you guys have some creative minds, and if you guys are willing, you guys can make this video, you guys can direct it. I'm here for any technical help, which is what she did, and I'm here to support you guys. So she gave us kind of an idea of what she was looking for. The topic was mitigating, so we kind of took that, and I stretched my mind, and I stretched it really far, and I thought of what we can do to kind of promote school safety. And next Monday, we're traveling to Des Moines, because we're top 3 in the Iowa. So our video made it either first, second, or third place. We still don't know, but we're top 3 in Iowa, and we're going to meet with the governor of Iowa also, so we're really excited about that. So I really hope you guys enjoy this, and it kind of brings awareness and PSA to how important it is for us as a school board, as teachers, as whatever, to promote that school safety and to make a difference.
She's pretty good, right?
You are extremely well spoken. You did a very nice job. Yeah. What year are you?
We are now in the lockdown. Locks, lights, and out of
Okay,
sight.
hey guys, I need you guys to get back in that back corner, all right? I'm gonna lock the doors. I'm gonna turn out the lights. Make sure you have your cell phones off. We do not want to draw any attention to ourselves.
Mitigating? Mitigating?
It's to ensure that nothing bad happens.
I know the adults in my school care about me.
They spend so much time making sure we know what to do in case of an emergency.
It really makes you think, you know? You never know whether it's a drill or not. So making sure that we do every drill as instructed is crucial. You hear about different school shootings or fires or even tornadoes hitting.
But never my school.
And you think this could never happen in high school. But didn't those kids probably think the same thing?
I feel so safe knowing what to do in case of emergency. With so many adults that know what to do and care about our safety, it makes school a better place.
Mitigating.
Mitigating. Mitigating.
It might take up 10 minutes of the first day of class.
But those 10 minutes could save your life.
I want to stop this before it goes. Come on. So Ajin, on behalf of the school board, I want to just give you a little keepsake keychain that talks about Council Bluffs Schools where dreams begin, because you have so many dreams and you have helped us in so many ways, and we've still got a year and a half, 2 years with you.
Yeah.
Good for you. We want to show you one more video, tonight's video, movie night at the school board meeting. And I'd like to have Carrie Newman come up and kind of explain what this is going to be about. Carrie?
Dr. Bruckner forwarded an email last spring, and just FYI, and it was it was the Iowa Realtors Association had picked up a project called Project Jack, and they were awarding money to schools that would focus on kindness and acts of kindness. And we had several teachers receive the grant. I know that Wilson Middle School did as well. And one of our recipients was featured in their video that they pushed out to the state. This particular video is going to show two of my 6th grade reading language arts teachers They hooked into this project based on the Kern Kindness campaign that was already going on, so it was a really nice fit.
Well, this project makes me feel happy and just grateful that we could do this to the community.
It made me feel good to know that I was helping someone.
This year, one of our themes in our classroom is random acts of kindness. So I thought Pay It Forward could really piggyback on that. And I was really excited when I found out what Project Jack really was about. And I couldn't think of anything better to do with my class.
I think that it had a message of a young boy that was always giving back to others, and teaching kids that lesson through the foundation is a very, very good thing for us to be doing, and our whole program is designed around helping Iowans in need, so we felt that made some good sense.
Little tease, now we're going to show you the feature part on the other video.
Project Jack, Pay It Forward.
Whole neat rollout of this from the Iowa Realtors, so really excited. So we're going to just fast forward to the part about Kern.
Teaching kids that lesson through the foundation is a very, very good thing for us to be doing, and our whole program is designed around helping Iowans in need, so we felt that made some good sense.
Project Jack, Pay It Forward.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Minute 3.
Our hearts.
Right there, right there.
Tie it into our school curriculum. So we asked the students to brainstorm various causes or organizations or groups that may struggle that could use some help. And we asked them to think about how they can make a connection to those people. What can they do to help them?
Our project is we're researching books to donate to the hospitals. We decided to, because we're language arts teachers, the reading aspect is very near and dear to our hearts. It's kind of that escape for a lot of people.
The kids at the hospital, our teachers wanted us to really be able to give them something special so that they could feel that they were loved.
To kind of get their mind off what's going on around them.
We decided that we were going to give each table group $25, and they got to research a certain age group.
We looked it up on the computer and just about what books we liked, but also just books that we thought that kids would like. And it was a little bit tricky for us because we had to figure out prices, and each group only had $25 to spend. So we really had to limit our books, and I really like books, so it was hard for me to be like, oh, this is a good book, but so is this one.
It's really special because kids with disabilities and in hospitals and stuff, they don't get to go out really and play sports, especially if it's in a hospital. So getting to have them, getting something for them to have to busy their minds is probably meaning a lot to them.
My sister has Down syndrome, and so my family has really loved the hospitals, and so this is really touching to me to be able to pay it back to the hospital and just say thank you for everything that they've done.
We were awarded the grant.
So this grant was really kind of a Johnny on the spot. If you're interested in doing it, volunteer quickly, and we had several, as Carrie said, several teams from both of our middle schools that were granted. So it was a great way of paying it forward. So that's our good news.
Congratulations, Ajing, and to Donna, and everybody involved in the videos. Those are wonderful. Now we come to a part where we have approval of our agenda. Is there a motion?
Move approval of the agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions about the agenda or any concerns? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Approval of our minutes. Is there a motion to approve minutes of the regular and annual meeting of September 27th?
Move approval of both our regular meeting of September 27th and also our annual meeting of the same day.
Excellent, thank you. A second?
Second.
Are there any questions or corrections? Those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and the meeting minutes are approved. Now is an opportunity for members of the public to address the Board of Education. Is there anyone interested in speaking to the board today? Does not appear so. All right, Superintendent's report, Martha?
Thank you very much. Under our most important category of student achievement, Dr. Corey Vorthman is going to share our annual progress report.
Ta-da.
There we go. Good evening.
Good evening.
It's my pleasure to share with you tonight some information that was contained in your board packet regarding our annual progress report. The annual progress report is a series of measures designed to help school districts reflect on the academic progress that their schools have made during the previous academic year. It includes specific data related to student achievement goals around CSIP, as well as academic proficiency on standardized measures, and other measures such as dropout rates, graduation rates, attendance rates, and post-secondary rates. What I wanted to do with you tonight, since you had all the data in your packet, was to just briefly put the APR in context for you and help provide some background information on how we use it, what its limitations might be, and how it might be important for our community. So first, I want to talk a little bit tonight about APR as a progress tool of compliance. And it is one of the mechanisms that we use to comply with state and federal reporting guidelines. Chapter 12 of Iowa Code requires that each school district report annually the progress of its students to its community. And we certainly do that. We provide an update to our community, which is another important piece that APR provides. And the data that's compiled in the APR will come out in a publication similar to this that will be hitting your mailboxes towards the end of the month. And what it does is it takes the information that was provided in your board packet and puts it in a colorful, easier, more visual way to understand how our school district is doing on academic measures. But lastly, I want to leave you with, I think you saw a very good example tonight, that APR only tells part of the story. And oftentimes, we spend a lot of time analyzing and crunching data and collecting data and trying to make sense of various proficiency measures. But what's really most important is to stop and reflect on how numbers can tell the story of wonderment. How can numbers tell the story of a special needs child who learned how to do a very functional life skill for the first time? How can numbers tell the story of a child who received a caring adult in their classroom when there may not be one at home? How can the numbers tell a story of a child who becomes naturally curious about a topic that becomes their life's mission and becomes their career? How can numbers tell a story of belonging, where a child may have been excluded from a school group or felt excluded from a peer group and found belonging in an after-school activity or a sport or fine arts? How can numbers tell a story of empathy, of how we help children try to see their lives through the lives of others? It's just interesting a coincidence tonight that we were to have those two videos, both of which show the awesome creativity and commitment that our kids have, neither of which can be shown by the numbers. So I just wanted to put that in perspective tonight. It's something that's near and dear to my heart, and I know it's near and dear to your hearts as well. There's only so much that the numbers can tell us. It's important that we also remember that kids come to school for a lot of reasons. And academic achievement is the most important, but there are other things for us to think about as well along the way. So with that, I would take any questions that you might have about APR tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the things that we've discussed is that, boy, that's, can we turn that down? Is that? As Corey said, this is going to come out, as Corey said, this is going to come out at a later time, later this month in our newspapers and to our households. And what we've put together is a format that in the last couple of years the Department of Ed has said is a very clear format for us to share this information with our public. We are going to have a benchmark report at our next meeting, and the benchmarks are kind of the measures that we're tracking, and we've decided in the APR to focus on the ones that we think the public are most interested in. So, thanks, Corey. Go ahead. Now I think
Okay.
I fixed the volume for you.
Oh, you did? Oh, thank you. So now we have informational presentations. That's you all, so.
That is. We're going to start with Dr. Marty Shudak, who's going to tell us about all of the wonderful federal title programs we have in 30 seconds or less.
We could go on and on about federal title programs, couldn't we? But just wanted to highlight a couple of points that were made in your packet. And basically, we are working with 6 different title programs that come to us from the federal level through the state. And we have received now this year well over $4 million aggregate in the amount of allocations provided to Council Bluffs schools. This is an increase of well over 300,000, nearly 320,000 from last year, which was also an increase over the year before. So we continue to be fortunate enough to increase the allocation in total dollars. A couple of points to know about that, though. $300,000 is of brand new money that comes to us through Title IV, which is our Safe and Drug-Free Schools, our 21st Century Grant. We now are providing after-school programs for high school, and that is a 3-year, $300,000 a year for 3 years, I believe, to provide those after-school programs. So now we have after-school programs at elementary, middle school, and now high school. So that makes up a bulk of the net increase. We also are not counting the Title VI money that should be coming out sometime soon. This is our assessment fund, and we should be looking at about the mid-30s, $30,000. Last year it was about $34,000, and that's decreased a little bit over the past few years. So that amount should be about $330,000 above what we had last year. But again, most of that is from the Title IV increase for our after-school programs at the high school level. And I think I'd mentioned this last year, that the 6 different programs, they are really distinct in how they operate, how we apply for the funds, how we report the funds, how we request reimbursement for expenses through those funding sources. They're very different in what they allow us to make payments for or to purchase things with. Some of those programs allow us to purchase materials or technology, and others do not. Some allow us to pay for additional teacher positions, and others allow us to merely pay for teachers extra time if they do after school professional development and whatnot. So there are some restrictions that are accompany some that don't accompany others. And then finally, they do all work together for what I consider the similar purpose of helping us improve the instructional programs, the teaching and learning resources. Again, some of the programs allow us to provide more student materials, and others allow us to provide materials such as resource materials for teachers in professional development, travel to conferences, substitutes so that the teachers can collaborate on new learning and whatnot. So if there are any questions on those forms from the packet or anything that I might have commented on, be happy.
I was just wondering if you could give us a little bit more information about the Carl Perkins grant, like how long it's been around and how we utilize it in our high schools.
Carl Perkins is pretty much what we use to provide the Tucker Center courses and programs there at the Tucker Center. And I believe that's been going on well over 15 years that I can remember. So that's been very helpful in providing the career and technical courses and programs that we offer.
There was a little bit of a change for negative reasons. Is there any programs that'll be affected at the Tucker Center because of that?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the Carl Perkins grant just funds a tiny, tiny bit of what we do at Tucker Center. So we're always scrambling for additional funds to support career and technical education. As you know, the Department of Education has put out some new guidance on that. We are kind of afraid that we're going to lose about $65,000 next year, not from Carl Perkins, but from some state grants related to CTE, and that's in a well-meaning effort to try to have us work as a group, have school districts work together. So the money will go from our direct control to a collaborative, which is wouldn't be our first choice, but we aren't voting.
So who's in charge of that collaborative organization?
It's co-convened by the Green Hills AEA and Iowa Western Community College. The chiefs of both of those organizations are supposed to convene the planning team.
That will be effective for next school year?
Well, the team has to be in place this year. They don't actually have to have a plan done that really does anything related to this, but they're still going to take a certain percentage of money from all of the districts. And for us, as the biggest district in Southwest Iowa, it's the biggest pinch. So we're sad about that, but we're going to collaborate in a very well-meaning way.
Are these other funds in here, are they by students who qualify for those? Or is it by like a grant-making process? I know it's like our ELL was down, but I assume that's because the number of students has fallen.
The number of students in ELL is pretty steady, but you're right, it's down $10,000.
I think.
But is that based on the population of students we have that are being served by that grant?
That's how it's figured. And it starts out with a certain amount of money that they have at the state, and then it's divvied up based on number of students.
Was the 21st Century Learning Grant, are those are competitive grants?
They
Seems like the
are.
other ones are really just federal funds that are filtered through by the
Very
state.
good point. Yep,
So that's the only one of those funds that are competitive grants.
I believe so.
A question on the Title I funds. It says at the bottom of that, 1% of funds are used to help increase parent participation in a child's learning. How do we use those funds?
Those funds are allocated to the Title I schools based on the number of students in the schools, and then the schools can turn around and use those monies to bring in parents to do some parent activities. A lot of times it's helping parents understand the curriculum and the instruction that's being provided in the schools, and then some ideas on what the parents can do at home to further support that.
Sometimes a math night or a literacy mat. And we just discussed at Cabinet this morning, sometimes we entice families to come to those events with pizza or burgers or something like that, because that gets them to come. And then while they're a captive audience, we try to include them in some of our learning strategies.
Because that's about 30, which was that? $25,000? Something like that?
Across 8 schools, that's
Yes,
three to
$3 grand or so
4,000
per year. Okay.
per school.
Okay. Any other questions for anyone? All right, thank you, Dr. Shudak. Now, International Baccalaureate.
Yes, I would just mention Dr. Shudak does a thankless job of managing all of our federal title programs, and every one of them comes with a different set of reporting requirements, of which he takes care of all of them. So we're very blessed to have his meticulous eye on
Thanks,
all of our
Dr.
federal
Shudak.
title programs.
So you got to thank you. I got to thank you.
And everyone in the Department of Education at the state level knows that Marty is the nicest, most honest person they've ever met, so everybody knows we've got it right.
Well, good evening again. It's my pleasure to discuss with you tonight some very, very exciting news that we would like to share with you and ask later on in the meeting for your support through a resolution regarding Kern and Wilson Middle Schools and our desire to engage in the middle years program for International Baccalaureate. I'm joined tonight by Aaron Schoening, our IB coordinator at College View and Carter Lakes Elementary, Carrie Newman, principal at Kern Middle School, Kim Kazmachek, principal at Wilson Middle School, and Melissa Taylor, instructional coach at College View. So these folks tonight are going to help me field questions that you may have, because this obviously has a tremendous opportunity at both of these middle schools, and we have a wealth of learning that we've already done, opening 2 primary years programs on both ends of our school district. So just to refresh, I put some information in front of you tonight, but the middle years program is really very similar to the primary years program, and then it's sponsored by the International Baccalaureate group, which has been around for almost over 40 years. If you look at the state of Iowa and the state of Nebraska, we will be only the 2nd school district in the state of Iowa to have a middle school years program, and only the 3rd middle school in the metro area to have a primary years program and middle years program. So very honored to be able to discuss with you tonight the possibility of bringing International Baccalaureate to our schools. Wanted to share 3 important points tonight regarding International Baccalaureate. And the first is that the IB middle years program really provides us an opportunity to provide continuity of services, instruction, and programming as students leave our elementary schools and go off into middle school. Secondly, IB helps develop the whole child approach, which is fundamental, we believe, in educating the child academically as well as socially and emotionally. And then thirdly, International Baccalaureate aligns with the beliefs as well as the strategies of our strategic plan. Just to give you a little context, College View applied for candidacy in 2011. That was followed by Carter Lake in 2015. Both of these schools have undergone the application process. Carter Lake is currently in its candidacy, and they will be receiving a visit in the next year to be full-fledged IB, and they are expecting to have a big ribbon cutting to celebrate the hard work that they've done to become an authorized school. This also represents an opportunity for us to build out our middle school reform initiative. And if you recall, in 2011, we brought to you a package of ideas that we wanted to do with a study team of teachers and principals to really move our middle schools forward. One of them was addressing interdisciplinary planning, providing opportunities for children to learn across the curriculum, which IB does for us. And then IB also has the support of administrators, staff, and community members at both Kern and Wilson Middle Schools. Second point, the International Baccalaureate really develops the whole child. And one of the things that we've heard time and time again, as we've had presentations from College View and Carter Lake Elementaries, is the attribution of the learner profile. But not only does International Baccalaureate provide students an opportunity to explore as a learner, but it also gives teachers an opportunity to plan with each other in interdisciplinary ways to help teachers and students make connections across the curriculum, and also promote students' awareness of individual, local, national, and world issues, really to help our students understand what it means to be a global citizen. It also helps us engage kids in a thinking process around the choose, act, reflect, action cycle, which encourages kids to go from learning to action to service to our community. Thirdly, the International Baccalaureate program at the middle schools aligns with our beliefs and our strategic plan, and it also helps us to align to those goals. If you recall, when we did our strategic plan, I believe it was a little over 2 years ago, one of the things that we said is we developed some belief statements. And if you go back and review those belief statements, you'll see that there's a very clear alignment between the framework of International Baccalaureate as well as the strategic beliefs that we identified. A couple of them that I think stuck out to me are our belief that embracing diversity and inclusiveness enriches our community, which aligns with the International Baccalaureate program, as well as educated citizens are crucial for a democratic society. And we also believe that challenging expectations inspire people to reach higher levels of achievement, which International Baccalaureate will push us to do just that. It also helps us with the strategies that are in our strategic plan, namely increasing college and career readiness, as we will provide pathways for students from elementary through middle school, the primary years program, and then into a very rigorous high school curriculum that engages kids in both advanced placement and concurrent enrollment coursework. So the journey begins with your support tonight. We are prepared to begin to study and consider reaching out to both staff members and community members at both of our middle schools with the support of the Board of Education to formally study the International Baccalaureate program and begin the application process for candidacy in the spring of 2017. That process is very rigorous and will likely take most of 2 years before we would have the potential to be approved as only the second middle years program in the state of Iowa. So with that, we would be happy to answer any of your questions tonight about this exciting opportunity at both of our middle schools.
How does the, I was reading on this little form that you gave me. How does it prepare them for the IB diploma program or the career-related program? Is there one program for IB and
that
one
could
for
be
IBS?
way down the road, but one of the things that, if you remember when we first had conversations about the primary years program at College View and Carter Lake, one of the first things that parents asked was, well, when's the middle years program coming? And as you can see, it takes a tremendous amount of planning, resources, and time to do that. I believe another strategic plan probably will have to come before we're willing to commit resources to develop either a career and technical related IB program or a diploma years program, or maybe neither. One of the things that we have found throughout our research is that oftentimes the middle years program coupled with the primary years program prepares kids very nicely to go into a rigorous advanced placement and concurrent enrollment track. And some school districts absolutely do it that way. Others use one of the IB frameworks in their high schools. So that's a decision that we will have to make probably 5 more years from now as we learn how to implement
Somewhere.
the middle years program. Yeah.
Somewhere down the line.
Good question.
But it kind of sets them up.
It could. Yep.
I understand the IB has less recognition collegiately than AP, so that's why. I mean, there's like framework for the AP and the C classes, and IB sits kind of separate from that. So a lot of
Correct.
schools choose one path.
Correct. I've seen examples of it done both ways. I've seen examples of schools that have been diploma year program schools and also advanced placement at the same time. I've also seen schools that didn't do it that way.
Yeah, and I would have to caution us at this point. We're talking about middle school, and what
Yeah.
we're now talking about is high school, but we have about 1,400 kids in each of our high schools, and we think we have some really excellent programs there, especially as we move more and more towards academies. If we would move into the IB diploma program, we would be competing with ourselves for those students. So as we look at it right now, we are not in any way, shape, or form saying that it is a must to go into another program. The middle years program can actually go through 10th grade. So it would be possible if we wanted to push the middle years program up through to our high schools that we could go through 10th grade in both of our schools. That would be a later decision than what we're talking about tonight. But as far as moving to the diploma program, that we'd have to consider that very seriously because we might be shooting ourselves in the foot there.
My first year on school board, I had a parent, that was her major concern. She walked right up to me and said, "When are we getting IB at Kern?" I said, I don't know. So I think she'll be very pleased to see that we're talking about it.
Do students who are not in IB primary, will they be disadvantaged coming into Wilson? Just curious.
No, the only disadvantage is they likely will not have a lot of the same background knowledge that kids from our 2 primary years programs will have. We believe that we can absolutely catch them up on some of the thinking skills and the learner profile, but they will certainly be leaders, those kids that come from those 2 programs, leaders in both of our middle schools. And we're excited to have the opportunity to have both College View and Carter Lake go into Wilson and Kern with a lot of background information and help other kids learn about IB as well.
We made a statement that IB teaches and energizes us to form a democratic society, and so I'm just thinking that there wasn't IB programs for our 2 current presidential candidates. My question is, how supportive is the staff?
You know what? I'll let our 2 principals speak to that.
Thank you.
Microphone. Such a loud voice that I forget about that. Our staff has been under the impression that we eventually would go to IB. So a lot of them thought that that was going to happen. When we brought that, when I talked about it last year, a lot of excitement. This year, just wanting to get going on it. So my staff, I think, has been considering it longer, and so they are looking forward to it. The more they learn about it, the more excited they get. They're really ready to meet the needs of kids in this way.
Do you see a partnership between the 2 of you to help get things together?
Always.
Are there considerable differences between the IB primary years program and the middle years program?
Just me to hold it. There are differences, and a lot of the differences have to do with the curriculum and the number of instructional hours that students have to have in each of the areas. As I study that, it seems like there's more guidelines to it, but the philosophy is very, very similar.
Yes.
I have a question regarding the curriculum. How well does the IB curriculum fit with the Iowa core curriculum, or will there be major issues with maintaining that balance?
So this graphic is a little bit fuzzy, but what it does is it shows the IB program is on the outside and this idea of creating global citizens. But then the second ring in identifies the major subject areas that students participate in. And what you'll see is those are the core subjects plus the arts and design and language. And so when we look at the laying over top IB and our current curriculum, we feel confident that with some tweaks, I think Aaron would agree, we had to make some tweaks at both of our elementary schools. We think that it's doable. But as was mentioned in your report, we will have to make some changes to schedules and to the way that we schedule kids into courses, and to make sure that kids have access to foreign language, which will require us to increase the amount of FTE that's available to support that in our schools. And then we're going to have to take a look as a team on how we want to address the design element of IB in our current curriculum.
Yes.
No, just one of the biggest misconceptions about IB is that it's this that IB is giving us this curriculum, and we are able to use the Council Bluffs curriculum, Iowa Core, and it's the IB framework. So we're embedding our curriculum within the framework that they're providing to us. So we are going to have to make some changes, as Corey mentioned, but in terms of the curriculum, we still have freedom to decide what that is.
One of the most exciting things for us as a principal who's been engaged in middle school reform is that it really adds a layer of sustainability to our efforts that we may not have that have been afforded. Sometimes some of our efforts are dependent upon whatever educational leadership framework that's around, and the IB framework allows for tenets of backward planning, interdisciplinary planning, kind of thinking about global ideas and problem solving, authentic intellectual work. So those kinds of things are really important and will help to glue everything that we've been doing already.
Today, the state social studies standards came out, and I was near Corey when he was reading them. He was very disappointed. That's an understatement, because the proposed, they're all draft, but the proposed social studies standards are very much too similar to what we've had in the past. As I think about IB, IB will open the door for that, because with IB you coordinate, collaborate, put pieces together so that students have a full learning experience. So maybe we can overcome some of the struggles we might have with the new standards because they fit into this organizational pattern.
I have a question, I guess, on what best practices have we learned in our IB primary years that we've shared with the other schools?
I think probably the biggest one is inquiry-based learning and what that really does and doesn't look like. And actually, just this past Monday, I was invited by our TAG, Rhonda Leffler, what's her TAG strategist, to kind of share some of that learning with the secondary TAG teachers. So there certainly are teaching practices. They're just good teaching that we want happening everywhere. And inquiry-based learning, I think, would be the biggest example of that.
And I did have a question, and somebody actually asked this of me a couple months back about the IB was Spanish, or are we offering other foreign languages? I know we do Spanish, I think, early on, but is there going to be another track? I see we're hiring an additional Spanish teacher, I'm guessing, at each school. But are there other Japanese or anything like that that you can offer in IB?
You get to choose.
You get to choose, okay. And so we've chosen that pack that's just based on demographics? I'm just curious.
I would assume.
We've chosen that based on it's the most popular second language in the world. that people in our country typically learn, and it was what they chose at College View and Carter Lake, so we didn't think that we should choose a language that was other
Well, and I
than what
think
they're
that
learning.
language is supportive of what they have to take when they get to high school as a foreign language, and so it provides that primary foundation for them for learning, because when you get into high school, it's very demanding.
And once you're in high school, then you've had how many years of Spanish? What are we doing with those students then? So they have the additional years. What if a student needs 4 years for their Iowa State top scholarship or something like that? How are we going to provide those students? I
We've
guess
actually already
just
started to
curious.
respond to that at Kern because of students who were coming from College View who had more Spanish than their counterparts. And so the Spanish teacher from Kern and Wilson got together and developed basically an alternative pathway through Spanish that allowed kids to start high school in Spanish 2, which accelerated them into the concurrent enrollment. By the time they were juniors and seniors, they could take elementary Spanish and intermediate Spanish and leave high school with 6 credits in foreign language and have their foreign language, if they wanted to go to a Regents, their foreign language requirement at the Regents would already be met at the high school level. So
They take AP Spanish too.
they could also sit for the AP test as well.
When it says that all the students are are full participants in the program, so this is for the whole school, and you'll be changing the way, it's not just 2 different programs, it's,
No, the whole school will be embedded in the initiative.
When it first was implemented in schools, they offered a school within a school model, but that has since been discouraged. And so all students will have access to the same programming.
And why do you think, I guess I know there is another IB middle school program in Millard, correct? Why has it been slow to adopt in Iowa? Just curious.
Cost?
I don't know that I know, sorry, Kim, that I know the answer either, but Des Moines Public has worked really hard, and I couldn't quote you an exact number, but it's close to a dozen, 10 to 12. And what they really have strived to do is have the continuum of programs, primary years, middle years, diploma years program, available to all of their students, like within a reasonable distance, in their district. And so they certainly have just as many, in terms of like, their middle schools are bigger than their elementary schools, just like ours are. But they offer the program to the same number of students, the MYP program, to the same number of students approximately as they do the primary years program, the diploma years program. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's probably a little harder for rural schools to offer programs like this, I'm sure.
Limited resources.
Any other questions?
something else popped in. You said it's in the IB framework, but we're using our curriculum to fill that. And somebody just said resources. We get resources from IB that help us.
We pay for some
mention that.
candidacy, and then there are resources available. There are required trainings that we will attend, and then eventually we will be bringing trainers in and doing that within the school district. But then we have their bank of resources that are available online, and then everything from unit plans to technical support. I think all of those are available to us for the candidacy fees that we will pay.
One of the nicest things about this program, I think, is that through the middle schools, we can ensure that all students get this opportunity for at least 3 years. We now have it, as you know, in 2 elementary schools. If we could have it in all elementary schools, that'd be great. That's going to be a cost issue that we don't know if we can overcome. But by moving it to the middle school, we know that all of our kids go through those 2 middle schools, and they will have 3 years of this excellent philosophy and new way of learning. So it really is a nice way of reaching out to all of our kids instead of having a program that's just for some of them, which is one of the reasons middle school is a nice next step. We also have had, and I like Jill's comment about a parent called her. We have had several people that have said,
when are you moving it? And we've said, we're going to look at it. We promise we're going to look at it, but we want to do it at an appropriate time. We don't want to do it before it's time. Reminds me of wine. But these two ladies are the two that said, along with Jason Plord, who tonight is at Iowa Western Community College with an 8th grade career project. But what they have said is that this augments the middle school planning that they've been doing, and in some ways gives them a framework on which to hang what we want to hang anyway. So I think it's just kind of a good time to do it. You all know as board members, we are continually looking for funding to support our programs, and there's no difference here. We are kind of beating the bushes to see if there's anybody out there that'll help with this.
Do one more question on the middle school program. We hire the other teachers, and that's a cost. Is a fair amount of this is the professional development different in there? Is it what's the other costs that are involved in?
Well, the professional development framework already exists as a process, and so these components enhance that process. So it helps us with the content would be the curriculum, obviously, that we already have in the school district, and then some of the processes that we have available to us through International Baccalaureate would be things like backward planning and those kinds of things. And so those are going to just sort of seamlessly come into our professional development structure that we already have.
Additional costs include the additional FTEs, which Dr. Vorthman mentioned, the Spanish teacher, maybe an art teacher, depending on how that shakes out when we look at the schedule. We do need full-time IB coordinators. We'll probably make do with half-time coordinators, but Erin Schoening, I mean, there's an example of why that program is excelling. And so we have teacher leaders in place, which is great, but we need someone specified for that. That's a cost, and the training is a high cost.
Since Erin's standing there, we'll just say good things about her, since she came to the board meeting tonight. She mentioned earlier this afternoon when we were talking about this that today, as we speak, the IB, there's an IB coach at Carter Lake all day today and all day tomorrow to look at what work they've done so far. And that person then will go back and we'll give them some feedback about what they need to change or do differently. And Erin said that, you know, the initial conversation is that the things that are going on at Carter Lake are going very well. And we attribute a lot of that to Erin. She's been through this battle before. She understands it. She went out of her way to say that Carter Lake doesn't need to just take the College View plan and just do it over, but Carter Lake needs to figure out what plan will work for them using this organizational framework. And that's a real strength. So Erin, you are a gift, and we're very lucky to have you in this process. And here she is talking about middle school too, so.
Very good. If there's no other questions, I just thank you all and great job. And now we move to our resolution section. First resolution is approval to work on the middle school IB program.
I move to approve to begin the process to work towards an application for candidacy in International Baccalaureate status as a middle school years program for Kern Middle School.
Second.
And Wilson.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Dean, please call the roll.
Dr. Algress?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes.
Mr. Grove?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Ms. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Hanson?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes. Motion carries. Now we have policies for review and approval, and it is an approval of the list of policies and administrative regulations to be reviewed in the upcoming year. Is there a motion?
I move that the list of policies and administrative regulations to be reviewed in 2016-17 be approved as presented.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, Dean?
Mr. Grove?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes.
Dr. Ogres?
Yes.
Ms. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Hanson?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes. The motion carries. Now we have approval of our consent agenda, which includes an appointment of our 2016-2017 negotiation team. Do we need to read that, who they are, or no?
As presented.
Okay. And then an approval of amendment to our Council Bluffs Area Wi-Fi Consortium 2080 agreement to add Google. And then there's personal action and claims and accounts. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve our consent agenda.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, Dean?
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Ms. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Grove?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes.
Dr. Ogres?
Yes.
Mr. Hanson?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes. The motion carries, and with that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Oh, automatically signs me out.
Oh, did you say lockdown in the house?